Hello, we're at 2:04, so why don't we get started with the forum. Thank you all for coming today. We really appreciate you're taking the time to be here and learn more about the Delta Heritage and participate in some of the work that we're doing for the National Heritage Area. My name is Blake Roberts with the Delta Protection Commission. I'm the program manager for the Sacramento-San Joaquin Delta National Heritage Area. So I first want to just do an introduction to the day, and then we can kind of do a little bit of a brief overview and update on what's going on with the National Heritage Area. So this first session obviously is more related to what's going on with the National Heritage Area, really discussing some of the things that are happening with that, and kind of giving a preview of some of the things that will be happening later on today. About 2:30 or so, the second session will deal with heritage adventures. And that's really focused on trying to develop a list of possible trips for people to take throughout the region to learn about different parts of the Delta and the National Heritage Area, and to really be able to explore a little bit. So we're really lucky to have Sophia Zander with Zander Design and Patrick Johnston with the National Park Service to give a little bit of an introduction to some of the work that they've been doing on the Delta Trail Master Plan. Following that, we'll have a little bit of a break, and then we're going to be going into a discussion about interpretation. And really what we're looking at right now is trying to look at what's the state of interpretation in the Delta and the Carquinez Strait? What sort of things are happening in terms of education, in terms of being able to connect with visitors to the area, and what can we do to improve that? And then after that, there will be a discussion of the management plan, sort of a workshop related to the management plan that will be hosted by the consultants that we have from Point Heritage Development Consulting. And then we're going to be wrapping up with two lightning talks, one from John Takakawa with the Sassoon Resource Conservation District. He's planning on talking about birds in the area. And then we will also have Gia Moreno talking about the history of Hood. So, and then after that, we'll sort of conclude the day. So I did have a question about later session and the handouts that were sent to you. So hopefully everybody has received handouts. If you have not received a handout from us by email, just please let me know and I can send that to you. So those handouts relate to session 2, dealing with heritage adventures, and then 1 dealing with the management plan, which is session 4, which will be later on today. And it's going to be the same Zoom meeting for all things that are going on today. So just as a follow-up. One of the things I did want to mention is that during the second session, sorry, make sure that everybody is muted. But during the second session, one of the things that we're going to be doing is separate out into breakout groups. As part of that, unfortunately, breakout groups and calling in by phone do not mix. And so if you are calling in by phone, you might not be able to participate in the breakout groups. So that's just a little reminder to all of you. But you're definitely able to participate in a lot of other elements of the conference, but just perhaps not the breakout groups that we'll be having during that. So please let me know if you have any, please just put anything in the chat if you have any questions or just need any additional help, and we'll be happy to help you out. With that, I think we're gonna switch over to my discussion about the National Heritage Area. So just a moment, I'm gonna switch over to that. course, trying to get everything to work at the same time is a little tricky. So just a moment. Oh, okay. Having a little bit of a technical issue here, so I apologize for that. Can everybody now see the presentation or not?
Yes.
Okay.
We see introduction and update.
Okay, great. I'm not quite sure why I was having some technical issues with that, but at least now it's working. So I think a lot of you, a lot of the names here look familiar, and a lot of you are probably very familiar with the National Heritage Area and how all of that works. But I do want to make sure that we're kind of up to speed on some of the things that are going on, and there might be some things that you think you know, but apparently maybe you weren't aware of. So anyway, I'll just kind of talk about what's going on with the National Heritage Area and kind of give you let you know what's happening and will be happening later on today. So I think a lot of you already know what this is. The National Heritage Area is a place designated by US Congress where natural, cultural, historic, and recreational resources combine to form a cohesive, nationally significant landscape arising from patterns of human activity shaped by our geography. That is a mouthful, but really what it's all about is that there is a place, it's an important place, and there is a lot of significance in terms of what that area means to the country as a whole, and the people, especially in terms of that place. So we were very lucky that back in 2019, we were designated as one of the most recent National Heritage Areas. There's National Heritage Areas across the country. There's currently 55. Many are, as you can see here, are in the Midwest and East Coast, but they have been gradually moving westward. There's 2 in Washington that were designated at the same time as we were, and also 1 in Southern Arizona. So these are the boundaries of the National Heritage Area. And I encourage you, and we'll make sure that this is available in the chat as well, but there is a website that the National Park Service runs that does include an interactive map of the boundaries. That's not necessarily, these are pretty accurate boundaries, but there might be a little bit of discrepancies. So if you notice that one block is in or another block is out, I would, hesitate before you say that for sure, whether you're in and out of the National Heritage Area. But at least it would give you a sense of what is located with the National Heritage Area. So a little bit of background. In 2012, we finished up our feasibility study. And really the feasibility study is intended to be sort of a preliminary document to determine whether the area is worthwhile of a National Heritage Area designation. So that was finished in 2012. Between 2010 and 2019, we were sort of, perennially in legislation in Congress, hoping that eventually we would become a National Heritage Area. That eventually happened in 2019 with the John Dingell Jr. Conservation Management and Recreation Act. So that officially established us as a National Heritage Area. In 2020, late 2020, the commission created the Management Plan Advisory Committee. And then we had our first meeting of that committee in early January. And so we have been meeting every other month. And so we're looking at having our 6th meeting, I believe, in December. So this is just to give you a sense of what the life cycle or the planning life cycle is of a National Heritage Area. I mentioned the feasibility study. Currently, we're in the process of preparing the management plan. That is really intended to be sort of the document that will guide us over the next 10 or 15 years. And so our fourth session will deal a little bit more with the management plan. Our third session will as well, in sort of a little bit more indirect way. And then once you finish that management plan, we're looking at implementing and doing projects that were contained in the management plan. And then finally, at about the 15-year mark, then we do an evaluation of the National Heritage Area and kind of see how we're doing and whether there are any concerns that we might have, things that we might need to revise in our management plan. And also that is a time when we will be reauthorized. So in 2034, we would be expiring, at least in terms of our funding. And so, you know, one of the things that we need to do at that point is go through a reauthorization process in Congress. There's a lot of national heritage areas right now that are kind of dealing with that reauthorization. Thankfully, we have a little bit of a cushion now, so we don't have to deal with that. So the responsibilities of a local coordinating entity. The commission is the local coordinating entity mentioned in the legislation. One of the first roles that we have to do is prepare a management plan, as I discussed. We're also doing extensive public outreach. That's part of the reason why we wanted to create the advisory committee, was to really you know, provide some guidance to us as far as you know, how we're going to do things, what might be the best approaches. And so that is going to be, you know, really helpful for us. It's already been very helpful for us, and we're looking forward to continuing that, not just during the management planning process, but afterwards as well. Then also, you know, and one of the things that we will talk about in a little bit, just a couple more minutes, is partnerships. Partnerships are really important to the whole idea of a national heritage area. And so governments, nonprofits, and other groups are there to work with the commission in order to implement the plan. And so we're really hoping to reach out and try to get different partners out there who can work with us in doing things that are related to the heritage of the area. And then finally, we submit an annual report to the Secretary of Interior. And so that typically will happen in January, just to let people know what we're up to. So in terms of past and current projects, you know, one of the things that we were trying to do over the last 10 years while we're waiting for the National Heritage Area to happen is that we were trying to act like a National Heritage Area. And so that involved doing different projects. One of those was dealing with Asian and Pacific Islander heritage. We did some work on a workshop dealing with a Japanese language school in Clarksburg. And one of the things we've been doing is meeting as a group with the Asian and Pacific Islander Heritage Advisory Committee to discuss some of the things that are going to be coming up. We've been sort of taking a little bit of a hiatus during the management plan process, but I'm hoping to meet again with that group very soon. If you are interested in participating in that group, please let me know. The community action planning has been something that we've been doing as well. This has been really focused on the legacy communities along the Sacramento River. And so one of the things that have been really trying to do is reach out to those communities because, you know, they are an important part of the National Heritage Area, and try to talk to them about the things that are concerning them and the things that we want to work on. And so as a result, we've been focusing on some of the design issues in town, and also been working on broadband as well, which my colleague, Virginia Gardner, has been working on actively. Bob Benedetti, we were assisting him with the Delta Anthology Project. And so Bob has been a tireless advocate for sort of putting together different writings about the Delta and publishing them. Obviously, you're involved in the Heritage Forum right now. This has been this year is our fourth forum, and we're really excited about it. Delta Narratives and the Curriculum Project, that was also something that Bob Benedetti was involved in, as well as Margaret Ramburu, who is a former executive director for the commission. And really that was focused on sort of developing histories of the Delta, working with different museums and historical societies in the area to kind of develop histories. And one of the things that came out of that was, of course, great curriculum project. The Delta Trail Master Plan, we'll be talking about a little bit about that more during the second session, also the Heritage Adventures as well. So I'll talk any more about that. Heritage projects, feasibility studies, those are things that we did to basically support projects that were out there that needed some assistance in terms of sort of determining what steps were next for those. Two of the projects that we're working on are actually working along really well. One is the Clarksburg Schoolhouse project, and another is an Isleton Park, which would focus on Asian Pacific Islander heritage. Sign plan and sign placement. We worked with the Delta Conservancy and the Delta Stewardship Council on a sign plan for the region. And we've been working on putting in signs in terms of in different areas of the region to kind of announce people into the Delta. And then finally, one of the things that Stacy Hayden has been working at is a great thing to look at is visit cadelta.com, which is sort of the a tourism area for people to go to. If you haven't visited yet, I definitely encourage you to come and go there. The management plan components. So there's a few things that we need to include in a management plan. A lot of these are called for within the legislation itself. One is the resource inventory, and that's really trying to determine what things are out there that need to be included as potential resources for the area. That might be historic buildings, it might be the levee system of the area, it might be the kind of farming that's happened within the Delta, the industrial activity along the Carquinez Strait. There's a lot of different things that can be included as resources. And that really serves as sort of a guidepost for what things that we might want to focus on and highlight. Goals and strategies, these are obviously very important to the area and in terms of what are we going to do and how are we going to do it. The interpretive plan, that is, we're working with California State Parks on putting together a plan that talks about sort of what is the future of the area in terms of the stories and what kind of stories do we want to tell. The partnership plan, I'll talk a little bit more about that in a few minutes, but really that's key in terms of being able to determine what are the important steps for us to do in terms of gaining partners and working with partners in the future. And the business plan and implementation program, that's really dealing with the organization going forward and how we're going to get certain things done. So there's a lot of different things that can happen within a national heritage area, and there are as many national heritage areas as there are 55. There's different ways of and different types of activities that they can all pursue. Some of them are focused on certain things. For example, there's a national heritage area in Illinois that's focused on the history of Abraham Lincoln in the area. And then there's others that are a little bit more broad in terms of the work that they do. Historic preservation, obviously, is a key thing that we can work on, as well as cultural conservation and just focusing on the cultural diversity of the area. Education and interpretation, we've been doing some things that are related to that, and we look forward to doing more of that. Development of recreational assets, nature conservation, tourism, economic development. These are all things that we can do. And so many national heritage areas do many of these, but they might do it in different amounts. Finally, one of the things I wanted you to sort of think about were potential partners. And one of the things that we're going to be looking at over the next, well, not just the next year, but more years to come, are partnerships and who we can turn to in terms of people that we can work with. So there's an array of different groups that we can work with, from local and state governments to historical societies to downtown organizations, art galleries, restaurants and shops. There's a whole variety of groups that we can work with. And so, I think really one of the things that's been sort of pouted in our head by our consultants, Point Heritage, is the idea that we're going to focus really on the partnerships, because the partnerships are key to the National Heritage Area and the key to getting things done. So with that, I think I'm just going to turn over. I'm not quite sure if anybody has any questions. So let me look in the chat and see if there's anything there. No. And thank you to Trevor for putting in the link to the interactive map. Any questions? I guess I've just stunned everybody. So thank you so much. One of the things that I'm going to do is we're going to, that'll give us a few minutes to sort of segue into our next session, which will be related to Heritage Adventures. So hopefully you've received an email that had a couple of different attachments. One of those is specifically for the Heritage Adventures session. So I encourage you to look at that and maybe take a quick look at it before we talk about it a little bit further. And then I will be, one of the things we'll be doing at first is having Sophia Sander and Patrick Johnson talk a little bit more about adventure hubs and some of the work that they've been doing on the Delta Trail Master Plan. So with that, I'm going to just take a little pause and
Blake, I was going to make a quick announcement about 106.
Yes, thank you, Virginia, for that.
Hi, folks. This is Virginia Gardner, Delta Protection Commission. I'm a program manager there and working on, among other things, as Blake mentioned, the Great Delta Trail Master Plan. But I'm also the liaison for the commission, along with Eric Vink, for the Section 106 process. And I wanted to just give a quick announcement to folks. As the process for developing the management plan for the National Heritage Area moves forward, informed, of course, by efforts of the advisory committee and task forces and public events such as this forum, many of you may be wondering what the relationship is between the major planning effort for the NHA and potential effects of another major planning effort currently going on in the Delta for the Delta conveyance on many of the heritage resources within the NHA. We want to make sure that it's clear that there's no functional connection between the NHA and the Delta conveyance process. They're two distinct processes. However, there is another process under federal law in the National Historic Preservation Act, or NHPA, that requires the federal agency with regulatory authority over the conveyance project, the U.S. Army Corps of Engineers, to consider, evaluate, and avoid or mitigate potential adverse effects on cultural resources. And that's contained within Section 106 of the NHPA. The Commission is a participating agency in consultation with the Corps, along with Delta counties and tribal governments in the Section 106 process. We'd like to keep communities informed and aware of the ways in which Delta communities can participate or engage in the process as it goes forward. And with that in mind, we'll be sending out an occasional news update. What we'll be doing, we'd like to have you express interest so that we know you really want to receive information about this. If you want to put your, just a mention in the chat that you're interested, please feel free to do that. You can also respond to an email that we will be sending out to this mailing list with an indication of whether you would like to receive news updates or you'd prefer not to be involved. So with that, I'll just turn it back over to Blake and thank you very much for your attention.